Good evening, all the viewers. Myself, Tashi Bhutia, Department of Political Science, and my topic is Cold War. You can see the board. Cold War, meaning, origin, and its different phases. All right. So my topic will be relevant for the student of third sem honors. There's a paper called paper 6/7 Perspective on International Relation and World Politics. That is the name of paper, and it will be helpful for the student of third sem general as well. International relation. There's a paper, fourth paper. So even the students of I are a student international relations, and even the ones who are pursuing CBSE, any kind of competitive exams, for them also these lectures I feel will be helpful. Since the topic is little lengthy, so specifically I have made the topic this way. That is, first I will be explaining the meaning of Cold War, the origin of the Cold War, different phases. In the first phase I'll be explaining from 1946 to 1949. That is first phase. The second phase is 1949 to 53. Third phase 1953 to 57. Fourth phase, that is 1957 to 62. Then there's a from 1962 onwards to 1979. There's a relation. It's called détente. It's a French word, which means little bit as compared to first, second, third, fourth, we see kind of easing of tension, a relaxation of tension from 1962 to 79. So that period is called détente. Then after again, when Afghanistan was invaded by Soviet Union, after that 1970 onwards, again the Cold War, again there we see a kind of tension. So that's a new Cold War period. Then 1985, especially after 1985, ascendancy of Mikhail Gorbachev is a very crucial in 1985 onwards to 1991. So I put it like this: the beginning of the end of Cold War. So that's the content. All right. So let us come to the meaning and the definitional part of the Cold War. All right. So, okay, this one is meaning and the definition of the Cold War. See, if you look at Cold War, the term itself, isn't it, Cold War? It was for the first time used by an American statesman. His name is Bernard Burns in 16th March 1947, wherein he said, "Let us not be deceived. We are today in the midst of Cold War." All right, which clearly means that 1947. He said that it's not normal. Let's not assume that it's normal. All right, we are already in the middle of the Cold War. What he said is clearly, let us not be deceived. Let us not presume that it's a normal situation. All right, we are already in the middle of the Cold War. Midst means in the middle of the Cold War. And later on, the term Cold War became more and more popular, or we can say Walter Lippmann was the person who, in his book entitled Cold War, he was the person who popularized the term Cold War. All right. Then after that, I have put it. There are lots of definitions given by historians, scholars, academic scholars, but I have picked up a very important one. The next is Florence Eliot defined Cold War as a state of tension between countries in which each other adopts policies designed to strengthen itself and weaken the other. That means if you look at the entire period, all right, entire episode from approximately from 1945 onwards to 1991, this dramatic period which we called Cold War, isn't it? There, here each country means it was a bipolar world. United States of America holding a neoliberal or a liberal capitalist, we can say ideology. On the other hand, we have Soviet Union, or we also call it USSR, Soviet Union, holding a communist ideology. So we can see a series of tension, isn't it? Kind of contradictions or kind of antagonism between the two political ideology. So in nutshell, or in short, we can say the Cold War, the entire Cold War period is a period of confrontation, number one, and between the two ideological, we can say, ideologies holding a different political ideologies, all right, or pushing or backing that, or claiming that my economic model, capitalist economic model is best. United States of America pushed forward that my economic model is best, and on the other hand, Soviet Union claimed that our economic model is best. So we can say the entire Cold War period is a period of narrative. All right, we can say a period of propaganda, isn't it? Each side here we can say adopts a policies designed to strengthen, means they want to strengthen their design. That means my economic model is best, and weaken the other, means we have seen. I'll be explaining this in my later part of the lectures. That means in first phase, second phase, you will understand much better. All right. So let us come to the next eminent historians, American historians. Anders Stephenson, okay, has defined the Cold War possessing the following characteristics. Okay, so we'll be discussing one by one. So it was essentially a bipolar conflict involving two great blocs, USA and allies, USSR and its allies. So Anders Stephenson said that Cold War is a period of a bipolar world, which means that the Europe, if you look at the Europe, or if you look at from 1945 to 1961, it was a bipolar world, isn't it? The world was polarized into two hostile, we can say, camps: USSR and its allies, meaning its friends, and United States of America and its allies. Okay, now next, under the characteristics, highlighted by the historians Anders Stephenson, number two, he said, each side denied the right to exist. The Soviet Union, which followed Marx and Lenin teachings, convinced that the coexistence between capitalism and communism was impossible, and capitalism was immoral and doomed to collapse. On the other hand, in the words of President Ronald Reagan, Soviet Union was considered as evil empire. So here, what you need to understand is, okay, this one. That means each side denied right to exist, means it was, I already said, holding a contrary, isn't it, kind of political ideology. And if you look at how Soviet Union was formed, we know that it was entirely influenced by the writings of Marx and Lenin, isn't it? So 1917, we know Bolshevik Revolution 1917, inspired by the writings of Marx and Lenin here, isn't it? So they formed a Soviet system, we can say, influenced by the writings of Marx and Lenin. And in the writings of Marx also, we can see, isn't it, he was a critic of, he was a bitter critic of capitalist mode of production. He said that capitalism is more and more exploitative, it's immoral, and it's doomed to collapse, isn't it? In the words of Marx, he said that, there will be a time where, workers will unite. There will be a period of dictatorship of proletariat, isn't it? Where workers will unite and, capitalism will collapse. So in the writings of Marx and Lenin, we see that, capitalism is doomed to collapse. So holding the same political ideology, so it was, we can say that what I'm trying to explain here is, coexistence, peaceful coexistence between capitalism and communism was not at all possible. All right, it was not possible, and each side denied right to exist, means capitalism said Soviet Union is an evil empire. President Ronald Reagan, he said that it's an evil empire, isn't it? So United States of America proclaimed itself that we always talk about liberation, we talk about democracy, we talk about freedom. So Soviet Union denies freedom, independence. All right. So both were trying to, we can say, in some way, trying to, put a kind of narrative, to set a kind of narrative that it is beyond, and we can assume that it was beyond, possible to have a peaceful coexistence. So these are the features highlighted by Anders Stefansson. All right. So Cold War period, all right, it is also a period of, we can say, it was characterized by arms race, space race, proliferation of deadly weapons of mass destruction. So we can see, if you look at the period from 1946 to 1962, isn't it, approximately, in this period we can see the kind of arms race, meaning Soviet Union was manufacturing huge stockpiles of arms. At the same time, it's kind of space race, and even proliferations, mean expansion of deadly weapons of mass destruction. So kind of mad race we can see between the two superpowers, isn't it? That means sending aircraft, or sending manufacturing huge stockpiles of machine guns, especially nuclear weapons, missiles, isn't it? So this is also this entire Cold War period is also characterized by, we can say, a massive arms build-up and a nuclear weapons. Next point which I'm going to explain is, the Cold War is a period of no peace and no war. So no peace and no war means, comparatively, if you look at Second World War and First World War, the kind of intensity, isn't it, kind of devastation, because here, if you look at, I'm giving an example of Second World War only, where elite and excess, isn't it? Elite, in the elite sides we had France, United States of America, Great Britain, and in the excess side we had Germany, Japan, and Italy, isn't it? So both. So in this period, what happened was, in no peace and no permanence, there was a kind of armed conflict, isn't it? It's a hot war. Actual, we can say, an armed conflict between the two hostile camps, isn't it? In Second World War, if you look at the First World. So both most of the powers were directly involved in armed conflict. But if you look at Cold War from 1946 to 1991, it is why I said it's a period of no war and no peace, is because no war in the sense that we didn't witnessed direct confrontation between the USSR and Soviet Union, but at the same time, some proxy wars were seen regionally in its features. We can see, I will give an example of Korean War, where Soviet Union and the United States of America were helping either of the sides. In Korean War, same thing happened. Berlin blockage, Cuban Missile Crisis. So crisis happened. It doesn't mean that no war, doesn't mean that there was an absolute peace. No. So it means no war, no armed conflict. At the same time, no peace means series of tensions, suspicious of each other's move, isn't it? Kind of, they were very suspicious that what they are doing, isn't it? So lots of spy system, networking system also emerged during this particular period. So war of narrative, Cold War is a period of narrative and propaganda. Means, I already explained, narrative means kind of, the media house, the academicians, scholars were portraying Soviet Union as a liberator of workers. On the other hand, this one, the flag bearers of democracy, freedom, isn't it? Most of the media, most of the scholars, academicians were doing this. So it was a war. It was, we can say, a period of narratives and propaganda. Let us come to the next slide. That is, so origin of the Cold War, how it originated, right? Origin of the Cold War. Now, the containment policy of United States of America and its allies, that was one containment policy. Means, if you look at 1946, onwards, we have seen communism become an important political ideology. It's expansion of communism in not only in Europe, even in Asia, isn't it? Expansion. At the same time, containment means kind of preventing, or we can say resisting the policies of we can say international communism by United States of America. So that became one important factor why Cold War originated. Mutual mistrust and suspicion. Mistrust, that means I already said kind of mistrust, isn't it, between them, and they were suspicious of each other's actions. A secrecy of dropping atom bomb. In this point, we see at the end of the Second World War, what happened was both USSR and Soviet Union were in the same camp, isn't it? Elite camp. So mutual mistrust and suspicion. I was explaining about origin of Cold War. Then after that, secrecy of dropping atom bomb. See, secrecy of dropping atom bomb here means Soviet Union and United States of America, though they were in the same camp, but Soviet Union was not informed about the dropping of atom bomb, because we know, at the end of the Second World War, United States of America dropped an atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All right. So what I'm trying to say here is both Soviet Union and United States of America, although we're in the same camp, but it was not informed regarding the secrecy. That means the dropping of the atom bomb by United States of America to Japan was not, it was kept very secret. That's why there was already a kind of suspicions against the United States of America. Now, installation of communist-dominated government in Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania. So these are all, if you look at Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, these are all Eastern European countries. So in 1944, when it was almost, assumed that the Cold War was about, the Second World War was about to end, at that time there was a meeting in Yalta and Potsdam where, the leaders, especially from the Great Britain, United States of America, and Stalin from Soviet Union, in Yalta and Potsdam, it was agreed that in most of the Eastern European countries there will be free and fair elections. All right, but the whatever commitment which was agreed at Yalta and Potsdam to allow free and fair elections was not done by Soviet Union. Rather, what happened was there was an installation of communist government in Poland, in Bulgaria, and Romania. So that is why United States of America got little disillusioned, or was not happy with the move of Soviet Union, where there was a communist-dominated government I already said, in Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania. Then ideological difference, no doubt, is one important factor, because I already explained that holding a different political ideology, communism and capitalism, isn't it? So contrary political ideology, no doubt, was one important factor for the origin of Cold War. Then last, that is, delaying of opening second elite front in Europe during Second World War, leaving the Soviet 3 years to battle the Nazis, unaided, made Russia suspicious of the Western area. What I'm trying here, what we need to understand is, in the Second World War, against the Nazi, because Nazi was the most powerful force from the Axis, against the Nazi, only Red Army, Red Army from of Soviet Union was battling with the Nazi, and there was a kind of it was said that they will open a second front, but delaying of the second front here means Soviet Union army, Red Army, was fighting unaided against the Nazis army, but no support from though since they were from the same camp, but no support came from the elite front, meaning from United States of America, from France, from Britain, isn't it? So that also was one important factor of the origin of Cold War. All right. So next we have, now let us come to the theoretical aspects. All right. So there are three theories regarding the origin of the Cold War: the Orthodox theories, the Revisionist, and the Post-Revisionist theories. All right. So here you can see, if you look at the Orthodox theory, they assume that it was because of the aggressive and expansionist tendencies of the Soviet Union. All right. That was responsible for the Cold War, isn't it? It was Soviet Union intentions of expansion and kind of aggressive natures of tendencies adopted by Stalin and Soviet Union was responsible for the Second World War. That played an important role, and United States of America was just playing a defensive role. It was claimed by, it was assumed by Orthodox theories. On the contrary, we have revisionist theory, focused less on international state system and the struggle to gain greater power and influence more on the elite's requirement of international capitalism, especially of the United States of America. Again, here, what we need to understand is it has a contrary, opinion to orthodox theories. It blames capitalism and United States of America for the origin of Cold War. Now, see. In 1944, there was a Bretton Woods conference where today's, a platform was created, a new liberal platform was created. We know IBRD, and now it's World Bank, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Now it's World Bank. Then IMF, International Monetary Fund. So it was created in 1944. So why it was created is because the United States of America wants a favorable environment, suitable environment to expand capitalism, isn't it? So revisionists blame the United States of America and capitalism for the Cold War. And the third, the post-revisionist, it argues that it is neither the fault of the US nor the Soviet Union, but it was as such that Cold War was natural and Cold War was inevitable. All right, that means Cold War was inevitable, meaning geopolitics was as such, cultural threats, bureaucratic politics. It was the system or kind of institution was such that Cold War was inevitable. It was bound to happen. All right, so these are the three theories. You can take a screenshot also. That's very important. Then let us come to the phases of the Cold War. I'll be explaining this one. The phases, from 1946 to 49, there are lots of phases. So let's come one by one. 1946 to 49, it's the first phase of Cold War. All right. So we know President Winston Churchill, in its speech in Fulton in 1946, coined the word iron curtain. Iron curtain means a curtain of iron. That means what it symbolizes, it symbolized the efforts of the Soviet Union to block itself and its satellite states from open contact with the West and non-controlled Soviet areas. Meaning, kind of iron curtain has prevailed. What Winston Churchill said is, there is already an iron curtain, meaning Soviet Union and its satellite states have, made a kind of iron curtain. They built an iron curtain wherein Western ideas, and that means Soviet Union was trying to block. All right. So kind of this we can say iron curtain, or it symbolizes the Soviet Union efforts to block all the especially the West and non-controlled Soviet areas in the first phase. And the first phase also characterized with a gradual consolidation of Soviet influence. Now, Soviet Union was not influencing Eastern Europe. Even Soviet Union made its roads in we can see Turkey, Greece, and Iran, isn't it? Now, I would like to quote here. I would like to explain what happened in the Greece. In Greece, what happened was kind of civil war broke out, and it was a kind of a war. It was a war initiated by especially the communists, and they were using a guerrilla tactics in order to overthrow the government. So it is in this historical backdrop we see we see President Harry Truman coming to the pictures and announcing a Truman Doctrine on 12th March 1907. So what is Truman Doctrine is a kind of military aid, all right? So Truman dispatched military forces to tackle the situation. So it is in this historical backdrop where Greece was attacked. So 4 phases of the Cold War. So 1946 to 49. So it was characterized by Winston Churchill famous speech in Fulton in 1946, where he said, "Iron Curtain has prevailed," meaning Soviet Union and its satellite states have already made a kind of a curtain wall, isn't it, made up of iron. So it was, we can say, the Iron Curtain, we can say, symbolizes the efforts of the Soviet Union to block itself and its satellite states from open contact with West and non-controlled Soviet areas. So that's Iron Curtain. And the first phase, 1946 to 49, is also characterized by, Soviet expansion to not only Eastern European countries, but even the Turkey, Greece, and Iran. Here, what happened was in Greece, a civil war broke out. All right, so it was led by the communists, using a guerrilla tactics in order to attack Greek government. All right, so it posed we can say a serious threat to the United States of America. So it is, we can say it is in this historical background or historical backdrop, Truman Doctrine was launched by President Harry Truman in 12 March 1947, which clearly, said, or it announced that it is directed to resist international communism. All right. So any kind of help, military help, economic help was given to Turkey, Greece, and Iran through Truman Doctrine. So next is, so in the same year, Marshall Plan was announced on 5th June 1947. So similar kind of plan, which the President of United States of America claimed that a Marshall Plan was a recovery plan. Okay, through Second World War, lots of devastation happened. So in order to restructure the Western European economy, Marshall Plan was announced. And the main motto was, to put all the, to resist, we can say here also, the spread or the influence of communism. All right. Similar kind of military pact was signed in 1949, which was called NATO. It is called North Atlantic Treaty Organization, to provide collective security against the Soviet Union. Here we know this is the main motto behind the formation of NATO is NATO in 1949 is collective security. Here implies that any kind of threat, any kind of aggression will be considered as an attack on one of the members. That means if there are 10 members, if one is threatened, then it will be considered as a kind of invasion or a threat to all the members of the NATO members of the NATO. So, right, so we can say it's a collective security against the Soviet Union. Now, in response to Marshall Plan, or we can say in retaliation to Marshall Plan, what happened was Soviet Union also announced a series of pact, which is called Molotov Plan of July 1947, which includes a series of bilateral agreements linking the Soviet Union with Eastern European countries. So, I said Marshall Plan was initiated in order to rebuild the Western, European economy. So Molotov Plan was, I said, in retaliation to the Marshall Plan. So through Molotov Plan, there was a series of bilateral agreement linking Soviet Union with the Western European countries. And even Cominform was established in 1947, a kind of information bureau in order to control the foreign communist parties. Kind of this Cominform, Communist Information Bureau, was also established. So this is a famous Berlin blockage, a very important event in the first phase, 1948, Berlin blockage. Now here, again, we need to understand a little bit of Second World War, background of Second World War. Now, Germany, after the Second World War, Germany was again divided between between the Allied occupied or the Soviet occupied zone. All right, but the problem arises in the capital Berlin, isn't it? Even Berlin also got divided between two: West Berlin and East Berlin. So East Berlin was under Soviet occupations. West Berlin was under the Allied occupations here. So what Soviet Union or Stalin did was all rail, road and canal access to the western zones of Berlin were all blocked, isn't it? So in the western occupied Berlin, 2.5 million civilians were there. So they had no access to food, medicines, fuel, electricity, and all other basic goods were blocked by the Soviet Union. So very interesting event. So in retaliation, what we see is a series of airlift. Isn't it? You can see in the pictures, series of airlift by the Western powers for more than a year to provide essential, essential goods, services to the people who had a proximity towards the elite forces, isn't it? So 2.5 million civilians were given, food, whatever essential commodities through, airlift. So this, we can say, was a major confrontation between the Soviet Union and the elite powers. So first major conflict, we can say. Now let us come to the second part, that is the second phase of 1949 to 1953. Now we see here the theater, isn't it? The theater of, because it was, if you look at first phase, it is all European centric. Now the theater has changed. Now Asia became the major theater of Cold War, because here the China, very important, or we call China as an Asian giant, falling under the clutches of communist regime, isn't it? Under Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong became a very important leader, and in 1948 China itself claimed that we are a PRC, Public Republic of China, isn't it? So China became a communist country, and the defeat of nationalist, there was a nationalist party under Chiang Kai-shek, isn't it? So it was defeated, and it was ousted from China, and Chiang Kai-shek was defeated, and Mao Zedong becoming an important leader in China was again a great apprehension for the Western power. And then a similar kind of thing happened in Korea, between North Korea and South Korea. Again, North Korea was under the Kim second son, the very important leader. So who wanted to unite North Korea and South Korea? He wanted to unite the entire peninsula there. And it, North Korea invaded South Korea in 25th June 1950. South Korea was battered badly by North Korean forces, and its capital Seoul was also conquered here. So North Korea's aggressive policies of uniting North Korea and South Korea, and even capturing the Seoul, the capital, that became very important during the second phase of the Cold War. Here it is not United States of America versus Soviet Union, rather it was United States of America versus China, because China was also China became a communist countries. And if you look at the geostrategic location of China, China is closer to North Korea. So lots of help and aid was received by North Korean army from the Chinese government, isn't it? So that is, we can see a shift of theater from Europe to Asia is second phase, 1949 to 1953. Then we'll come to the third phase of the Cold War. So during the third phase, what happened was the similar kind of continuation of the same policies, offensive policies against the Soviet Union by the United States. So here we see the formation of Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, SEATO, and Middle East Defense Organization, MEDO, in the third phase of Cold War. So if you look at the member countries, even Pakistan got involved in the Second World War, the neighboring Pakistan, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, France, USA, these were the member countries. So if you look at the objective also, what is communism was gaining ground in this region. So in order to resist communism, SEATO was formed. So in the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Pakistan and UK, these are the member of the MEDO. In 1955, it was formed, a kind of military organization. Again, the objective was to resist communism, isn't it? So, even very closer to our country, India, Pakistan got involved in the Cold War. So we know the history of India. India pursued a different foreign policies. That is, non-alignment movement. That means remaining aloof from the Cold War, isn't it? So we pursue the architect of the foreign policies. The first Prime Minister of India, Nehru, pursued a different kind of foreign policies, meaning remaining not, I wouldn't say neutral, but remaining aloof from the Cold War. But Pakistan got involved in the Cold War. So that is the third phase, 1953-57. Formation of Warsaw Pact in 1955 at Warsaw in Poland by Soviet Union with Eastern European countries to counter NATO. So here we can see the similar kind of pact and military kind of agreement, economic agreement, isn't it? Marshall Plan was countered by Molotov Plan. NATO was countered by Warsaw Pact. So kind of, we can say, kind of agreement, from both sides. So that's the continuation, same kind of economic and military kind of policies initiated by both the superpower. Then let's come to the fourth phase of Cold War, that is 1957 to 1962. Quite important here. We can see, the erection of the Berlin Wall. Erection, that means a huge construction of Berlin Wall between, East Germany and West Germany, and we can say this is a kind of a physical manifestations of Cold War. Clear cut. There was a boundary. There was a huge boundary erected to divide Germany. Or to check the fleeing refugees. So that was Berlin erection of Berlin Wall, and this period also witnessed a very important event that is called a Cuban Missile Crisis. 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis became a very important event during this Cold War. Cuba, one of the important country, all right, a small island country, became once again a communist country under Fidel Castro. And if you look at the map of Cuba, Cuba is very closer to United States of America. So looking at its strategic location, what Soviet Union did was installed a missile targeting important cities of US. So which here means, if you look at the distance from Soviet Union to United States to Cuba, it's just 90 to 91 kilometers away. Florida, the city of Florida is very closer to Soviet Union, Cuba. So Soviet Union was trying to put pressure on United States of America, by targeting or installing missiles there. Isn't it true? Kind of pressure was Soviet Union was trying to build. So here, what happened was, in retaliation, so United States of America also pressurized Soviet Union that you have to withdraw your, missiles, otherwise there will be a problem. So what I'm trying to explain here is, this period, Cuban Missile Crisis, was one of the important period in the history of Cold War, because for the first time, two superpowers came into direct nuclear confrontations. All right, so that's we can say the Cuban Missile Crisis is a heightened period of Cold War. Okay, you can see the erection of Berlin Wall there. That's an image. Next we have is the detente. Okay, it's a French word, detente, which means relaxation or easing of tension. All right. So comparatively, if you look at till 1962, isn't a number of pact and agreement, arms, kind of mad kind of arms race, this kind of thing the world witnessed. But comparatively, 1962 to 1979 is comparatively little, ease, or kind of, we can say, a kind of relaxation of tension. All right. So why? The question is, why there was a detente? Why there was a period of relaxation? Is because both superpowers realize that nuclear war will be suicidal, and it will be kind of mutually assured destruction. Meaning, you are using nuclear, I am also using nuclear. That means there is no win-win situation. It will be a suicidal, or it will be a mutually assured destruction. So that is why there is a realization that if you go for nuclear war, if you go for producing this kind of arms and ammunition, it will not be beneficial to either Soviet Union or United States of America. So after that, a series of ban on several kind of weapons were initiated. So that is, number one is partial test ban treaty of 1963, quite important. Then nuclear non-proliferation treaty, NPT, of 1968 is also very important landmark kind of. The Seabed Pact banned the testing of nuclear devices on bottom of the world oceans in 1971. That means now nuclear devices cannot be tested in any kind of seabed in the world oceans. Then biological warfare treaty aimed at curbing the use of biological agents for the purpose of war. That means any kind of biological war will not be used by any of the powers. All right, it has to be banned. So that was also signed. So important is President Nixon visit to 1972 in Moscow. That means the capital of Russia, culminated in the signing of SALT I and SALT II, strategic arms limitation treaty. So SALT I and SALT II again is very important. So if you look at the period, detent, isn't it? I already said it's a kind of normalization, the easing of tension between the two superpower comparatively. But Vietnam War was there, happened during this period. But even then, the two superpower maintained some kind of normalcy or kind of peace in this particular period. So that's period called detent. It's a French word. Then next is President Richard Nixon visit to Moscow was an instrumental in signing a treaty on limitation of anti-ballistic missiles. Even curbing on ballistic missiles was signed between Richard Nixon and the president of Soviet Union in Moscow. So what happened? So what are the achievement of the detent? Right, some achievement of the detent. Due to the process of detent, the total defense spending as percentage of the GDP declined. Meaning, I said during till 62, the kind of expenditures, expenses in the defense was quite huge from both sides. That declined drastically. The leader of the two superpowers regularly consulted each other on major crises of the world in order to avoid any major crisis. That means kind of we can say transparency between the two superpowers. They were meeting regularly and especially in the major issues. So for what? To avoid any major crisis. Here we also see a bilateral economic agreement led to the reopening of the trade between the two nations. So during the detent, kind of bilateral economic agreement also reached, and trade between the two nations were also there were kind of trade between the two superpower. All right. So these are detent. Now this is we have come to this part, that is new Cold War, 1979-1985. Now, I said till 1962 to 79 is an easing of period. Number of pacts were signed, military in order to deter further, kind of further crisis. We can say till 1979, number of pacts was signed in order to ban number of deadly weapons. But what happened was, again 1979, there was a crisis, especially when 29th December 1979, when Afghanistan was attacked by Soviet Union. So invasion of Soviet Union in Afghanistan in 29th December 1979 once again signaled the end of detent and the beginning of the new Cold War. All right. So at that time, it was from United States of America. It was President Jimmy Carter, was very angry with the Soviet move, and it's United States, started spending or giving aid to anti-Soviet Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So it was sponsored. Mujahideens were sponsored by United States of America in order to we can say check communism in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. All right. So as a result of this invasion, what happened was United States of America even boycotted the 1980 Olympics held in Moscow. So in the capital, there was a Olympic, but it was boycotted because United States of America, US, was not happy with the move of Soviet Union. So 1980 elections, Ronald Reagan became the president of United States of America. So Reagan presidency was marked by the strategy of winning the Cold War. Now, again, president with the coming up of the president after Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan becoming the U.S. president, once again signal the renewed form of Cold War. Right, Cold War again triggered. Okay, now this is the main goal of Ronald Reagan foreign policy was to win the Cold War. And he announced a Reagan doctrine to offer financial and logistics support to anti-communist opposition in Central Europe, and took a hardline policy against the left-wing government in Afghanistan, Angola, and Nicaragua. So we can see here, after the ascendancy of Ronald Reagan, he announced his doctrine called Reagan doctrine. Through Reagan doctrine, he initiated a very strict hardline policies against left-wing government in Afghanistan, Angola, and Nicaragua. This one, SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, it was nicknamed Star War. All right. So this is also quite interesting. Also, this one, SDI. There's a movie of Star Wars. So Reagan, what Reagan said is, we are starting a strategic defense initiative. That means any sort of attack by ballistic missiles, any kind of missiles, will not reach US soil, isn't it? So we'll be managing a kind of anti-ballistic missile program. All right. So it was designed to shoot down nuclear missiles in space. Okay. So he said it's a Star War. So we can say again, after the ascendancy of Ronald Reagan, this Cold War again we can say triggered, isn't it? It was again we can say started. Next we have is, now we have come to the end of my lectures. The end of Cold War. Now, the end of Cold War, what happened during from 1985 to 1991, isn't it? The beginning of the end of Cold War, we can say. Here, the change in the leadership, all right? Mikhail Gorbachev, very liberal comparatively as compared to his predecessor. Mikhail Gorbachev becoming the president of Soviet Union marked a new beginning in the East-West relations. So I already said, comparatively as compared to his predecessor, liberal, isn't it? So when he ascended, when he became the president of Soviet Union was already having an internal problem, especially the economy was going very slow. So in order to this one, we'll come to that part. First, let's explain what happened after the ascendancy of Mikhail Gorbachev. So Geneva Summit took place in 1985. Was the first Soviet-American summit held after the outbreak of Afghanistan crisis. So 1979 to 1985, there was no kind of agreement between, for 6 years, there was a kind of deadlock between the two superpowers. But 1985, they started talking, at least in Geneva Summit. Then after that, this was followed by a path-breaking Washington Summit of 7 to 10 December 1987, ban on intermediate-range nuclear forces. So especially this Washington Summit was held in order to ban intermediate-range nuclear forces. Then Ronald Reagan went to Moscow. There was a meet between President Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in 1988, in Malta, and wherein they agreed, especially the Soviet Union agreed, that we will be withdrawing all the aid and support to Afghanistan, to Cuba, and Eastern Europe. All right. So all these developments signal the end, the beginning of the end of Cold War. These are all the decisions taken by Mikhail Gorbachev. Now let us talk about what kind of reforms he initiated. So the reforms he initiated is Gorbachev, a dedicated reformer, introduced the policies of Glasnost and Perestroika. Now these two important policies, was detrimental or was very important because these two policies, I already said, is a detrimental for the disintegration of Soviet Union. So what is Glasnost? So Glasnost is kind of openness meant a greater willingness on the part of Soviet officials to allow Western ideas and goods into USSR. So I already said it was till 1985 kind of iron curtain. Western ideas and goods were not allowed in USSR, but Glasnost here means a greater willingness on the part of Soviet officials to at least allow. So we'll be allowing ideas, Western ideas and even goods through Glasnost. So Perestroika was an initiative that allowed limited market incentive to Soviet citizens. So if you look at Soviet system from 1922 onwards, no private property, isn't it? Private property was not allowed there. Only one political party, no multi-party, isn't it? Only one party was allowed to run the elections. So Gorbachev's initiative of Glasnost and Perestroika, where Western ideas and goods were allowed, number one, through Glasnost. Perestroika was an initiative which allowed a limited market incentive to Soviet citizens, meaning now you can, a little bit of privatizations, all right? Even Soviet citizens can initiate kind of little bit of liberty was given to the Soviet citizens. So Gorbachev was trying to give a push to the sluggish Soviet economy. However, the reform became the main reason for the disintegration of Soviet Union. So it was not a drastic change. Gorbachev was not trying to bring a revolutionary change. Just a slight change in order to maintain, in order to push the sluggish economy. What happened was that became the major factor for the disintegration of Soviet Union. Now what happened was 1989 in Poland. I already said Poland was a satellite country under Soviet Union. So Poland, the unraveling of the Soviet blocs in Poland in June 1989 in 1989 in Poland, Polish voters elected non-communist opposition government. So for the first time in 1989 in Poland, the people, Polish voters elected non-communist opposition government. So here, this is quite interesting line. The world watched with anxious eye, expecting Soviet tanks to roll into the Poland. Meaning, if you look at the other president, in Hungary, such kind of things happened. But what happened was, when there was a demand for democracy, when non-communist government were agitating against the communist government, what happened was Soviet Union tanks used to roll. I give an example, Hungary. So the leaders, the other people were, the world was watching like, will similar kind of instances will happen there in Poland. So that was a curiosity. Everybody was watching with anxious eye. But what happened was Gorbachev refused to act here. That means I already said liberal. So he said, no, I'm not going to interfere within the, interfere in the internal affairs of the Poland. So no tanks were rolled, no interference from the Soviet Union. So after that, like dominoes, like house of cards, Eastern European communist dictators fell one by one. Communist regimes were ousted in Hungary, Czechoslovakia and Romania. So Poland was the starting point. After that, it was like house of cards, like dominoes, isn't it? If you struck at the first card, it has a chain reaction, isn't it? Like dominoes. So Eastern European countries where dictators fell one by one, isn't it? So I gave an example, communist regimes were ousted in Hungary, Czechoslovakia and Romania. Then similar kind of, the physical manifestation of Cold War, that is the erection of Berlin Wall, it was demolished. Germany got united. So the Berlin Wall was also demolished by the people, and the people of Germany got united. There is no East Germany, West Germany, now it's one Germany. Now then Berlin Wall, which was the physical manifestation of Cold War, demolished by the people. Germany once again got united in 1919. Similar kinds of demands were seen in the Baltic states, especially in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. They also declared independence. Similar kind of sentiments were heard in Ukraine, in Caucasus and in Central Asian states. So the present day, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, the Central Asian countries were, became Soviet countries after 1991, after the disintegration of Soviet Union. So by December 1991, Ukraine Belarusia and Russia itself declared independence, and Soviet Union was dissolved. So by 1991, so from 1946 to up to 1991, even Russia declared independence. So after that, that means in the Cold War, two superpowers were there, bilateral, it was bipolar. So one power got lapsed, or with the disintegration of Soviet Union, because there's only one power now, isn't there? Is no power to check the United States of America. So with the disintegration of Soviet Union, we can say the Cold War ended. All right. Okay. Thank you.